Hey guys, what's up? It's Anita with Arise with Anita. This is my newest podcast coming to you live with the beautiful Melanie Marisol, who is one of my dear friends and one of the most trustworthy astrologers I know. So if you want to continue to tell them about yourself a little bit, go for it. And afterwards, we have an exciting episode today with an astrological weather report.
That's what we do out here. Hello, I'm Melanie Marisol, and I work with trailblazing, pioneering business leaders of the new earth or the new economy, and I help them decode their soul blueprint so that they can build out their legacy that they're meant to leave behind. So I really enjoy working with CEOs and other established business owners who have already reached a lot of material and financial success, and they're looking for the bigger spiritual reason behind building a multi-million-dollar or billion-dollar business.
We love to see it. So tell us about what you feel for our upcoming full moon, which, as you mentioned to me earlier, could be taking place at multiple times, depending on where you might be located and just, where the planets are aligning near you.
Right. So at the time of this recording, we are going to be having a full moon in Libra on April 5th, 2023. So what does that even mean? Basically, we are in Aries season. We've begun a new astrological year on March 21st, which is the first day of spring. And I want everyone to understand that I am a Western tropical astrologer. So there is Vedic astrology or sidereal, and then there's Western or tropical. Vedic astrology is also associated with being ancient astrology. It's been around for thousands of years. If you jive with Indian culture and the gods and goddesses, it's going to be good for you. If you're very focused on clearing karma in this lifetime, Vedic astrology is also good for you. Vedic astrology is also associated with the journey of the self. I, as a Western astrologer and tropical astrologer, I'm focused on the journey of the self, whereas Vedic is the journey of the soul. So I, for one, personally am not really into clearing karma. That's not a major priority for me at this time. I'm very much focused on who am I, what am I here to do, who am I here to help out and lead, and what is the legacy I'm here to leave behind. I'm not super concerned about what's going on karmically for myself. How did I decide this? I personally looked at my chart, and those that might have a lot of things going on in their fourth, eighth, or 12th houses, 12th house especially, which has to do with clearing karma, maybe you're more into that. I definitely think people that are interested in astrology, they can get readings done by Western astrologers such as myself and Vedic astrologers. It's always good to figure out how aligned your soul is with the self that you're choosing to operate with it in this lifetime, right? Additionally, when it comes to Aries season, a Vedic astrologer would say that we are in Pisces season, whereas someone like me, a Western astrologer, is going to claim that we are in Aries season because we have springtime happening. And I don't know about you, but springtime generally happens around the same time each year, which is around March 21st in the Northern Hemisphere. So when we're saying we're having a full moon in Libra, despite the fact that we're in Aries season, it's just saying that the moon, which spends about 2.5 days in a sign, is currently going to be entering Libra. So how does that manifest in real life? So because we're in Aries season, Aries in the zodiac is always going to be opposite Libra. So Aries, kind of like the baby of the zodiac, right? It's the archetype of the divine masculine, the warrior. And if you're looking at it on like a zodiac wheel, Aries is always associated with the first house. So just like when a baby comes out of the womb, when it's born, right? It's screaming, it's here, it's exerting itself, right? A baby has to understand what's
It's
going
making
on, and
itself
it's,
known.
yes, making itself known, hooping and hollering, and also understanding its identity. So Aries is very much into who am I? What am I standing for? Let's get it done. Very action-taking sign. If it's across from Libra, Libra is the seventh house. It's associated with that house, the area of life regarding relationships, marriage, and whatnot. Um, Aries is about assertion, whereas Libra is about how do I relate to others. So when you have this full moon in Libra, you have this moon that is happening to help you clear out that which is no longer serving you. So I'm not trying to get too tangential during this weather report here. However, I will also say there's a lot of people that have opinions about when you can manifest, quote unquote. Should you do it during a full moon? Should you not do it during a full moon? Is it only for the new moon? When you're looking at the full moon, you know it's a full moon when the moon is full and there is light emanating from it. Very simply, right? A
Yeah.
new moon would imply that the moon is darkened or you don't see it in the sky. So if we were like a few thousand years ago and we're hunters, we're going to be jazzed about the full moon because that's the time to go out and you can see in the dark and hunt nocturnal animals. So when you're doing a new moon, it's all black and it'd be very difficult to be hunting in the dark if you didn't have a flashlight, especially if you're hunting nocturnal animals. So with that, the full moon is kind of, I think of it as like, as a woman, your womb fills up when you have your menstrual cycle, and then it releases. So the moon is here, the full moon is here to release. Whereas the new moon is usually meant to set intentions and think about the future. The full moon is trying to reflect and then release. I believe as well, we are magical beings, right? We're multidimensional beings. So you can make your own magic. So if you want to write intentions and manifest on the full moon,
Go
I'm
for
not
it.
gonna please you. Yeah, right. I know Anita, a few weeks ago, you were thriving during full moon, where other people in our friend group were really struggling. So it all comes down to your own unique astrological blueprint. So whatever is thriving for you could be challenging for someone else, and vice versa.
And to piggyback off that,
Mhm.
we're not getting into the actual transits of what's going on in each sign. Your personal astrological chart is going to look a little different than, for example, mine or what Melanie's would. So, what you're going to be processing, releasing, and just overall having go down is going to be very different from the next person. So, while this is a general full moon reading slash kind of like what's out there in our consciousness, it's not necessarily like, hey, if you're not feeling this resistance or you're not feeling anger or whatever the emotions might be, something's wrong with you. It's not. So just putting it out there, dispelling that. It doesn't have to be something up for processing if you don't feel the need to. Now, we're not saying ignore if anything is coming up. Please don't do that. Process it, allow yourself to release it. But if you're not feeling it, it's fine.
Right. And I also say too, with this particular full moon, I've been really receiving a lot, receiving clients, receiving money, receiving gifts. So it's been pretty easy for me. This is a very chill full moon coming up. I've had other full moons where I feel like every time I walk outside, someone's trying to fight me, like verbally or emotionally. And you're like, what is going on? Why is everyone so aggressive? So again, it just comes down to what you're meant to be doing in your own personal cycle where you are. I will say as well, when we have a full moon in Libra, we have the moon entering into a sign that is concerned about interpersonal relationships. So maybe this is a good time to reflect and release relationships that are not serving you. This can be romantic relationships, although we don't have to always break up, but time to reevaluate your relationship. Relationships with coworkers, business partnerships as well, family, maybe even extended family. So, like your in-laws, people that are married in. Or maybe it's a good time to think about like, how can I improve my relationships? Is there anybody I should let go of, right? So that's just a good time to do that in the full moon in Libra. Additionally, there's some other astrological weather going on. So not only is this a good time to reevaluate your relationships with others, but the sun is conjunct Chiron. What does that mean? So the sun, right, which is the Aries sun, it is basically interacting with or on top of Chiron. That is the archetype of the wounded healer. Chiron represents the wound that you're meant to heal in this lifetime so that you can help other people do the same. At the same time, Chiron is very close conjunction with Jupiter as well. So that means that with Jupiter, the planet of good luck, abundance, and opportunity,
And
it's all
expansion.
kind of combined. So for people that might have their Jupiter conjunct their Chiron, like I do, that means the more I lean into my deepest healing, the more money I receive. I basically get paid to do my deepest healing work. So that's kind of tied together. Of course, not everybody watching this is going to have a Jupiter conjunct their Chiron, but if you do, good for you to check out. If you're feeling a certain kind of tenderness, especially since we're a full moon in Libra, maybe you have a tenderness around a particular relationship, right? That is something to consider, and maybe healing that relationship and however it means for you. So maybe you're meant to have a heart-to-heart with someone. Maybe you're actually meant to cut someone off. Maybe you're meant to distance yourself from them. So that's the thing to consider. For me personally, my Chiron wound is in the sign of Cancer. So that means the more I heal any kind of relationship to my mother or the divine mother, in this case, who live on planet Earth, the Mother Earth, or any kind of womb healing, the more that activates more good luck and abundance for me personally. So I highly recommend you look at your chart and see where your Chiron wound is. And just those who may not be familiar, Chiron looks like a little key in on your chart. So wherever that little key is, that's the key to your abundance, right? So
it's in your chart of finances like mine, where it's like it's meant to be a little bit of a struggle, but you're also going to be abundant in the area and helping others. There's definitely a lot of caveats. Again, your soul chose this. So at the end of the day, you just kind of have to go with it and see where life is taking you.
Right. Because at the end of the day, a conjunction not only are like two planets, quote unquote, on top of each other, but it's also conjunction also means transformation. So even if things seem to be challenging, lean into the discomfort, lean into the transformation, boom, you get to up level. Additionally, we also have Venus interacting with Uranus as well. So I'm looking here at my notes, right? So Venus is also conjuncting Uranus. What does that mean? So Venus is the planet of lesser fortune. Jupiter is the planet of greater fortune. Venus is also associated with Aphrodite in Greek mythology. Jupiter is associated with Zeus in Greek mythology. So with Venus, the planet of lesser fortune, that is referring to being the ruler of love, beauty, art, and money, whereas Jupiter is all about the expansion and that escalated quickly energy. So with Venus, what do people love to pay you for? It's interacting with Uranus, okay? So that means the planet of disruption, unpredictability, what's the term? Innovation, right? So they're interacting with each other. So it's a good time to reevaluate. What do people love to pay you for? And how can you pussify your offer, enhance it, make it more fun, innovate it, and how can you switch it up? This is a good time to promote your offer as well. Now,
so hold up. I'm going to ask you to go ahead and elaborate on what you mean by pussify your offer, because I'm sure if some of my listeners that are listening here are a little like me, when you first hear that, your mind goes a lot of different ways. So please elaborate, ma'am.
Yeah. So this term pussification comes from the book Pussy, A Reclamation, written by Regina Thomas-Hauer, also known as Mama Gina. And that particular book is all about women finding their womb wisdom to lead them with pleasure. This does not always mean sexual pleasure, but life is meant to be enjoyed for the most part and experienced in pleasurable self-expression. So when I talk about pussifying something, it's more of like sprinkling the pussy juice. Or if you don't want to be as explicit, it's about how can you make this the most authentic, truest version of yourself when you're creating an offer as well. What is the container that's going to make you be the most fully expressed, in which your talents and gifts can be of highest service to the collective or the new earth as a whole. So traditional business, I know, Anita, you might find it as well as I do. Traditional business is very much focused on, what's the problem in the market and can you provide a solution? And that is helpful for some people. However, we are transitioning to a new economy, to a new earth. So with that, it's more of how can I show up super authentically? How can I activate all my deepest gifts, right? And talents? And then how do I lead into that? So for example, I am very good at creative things. I'm good at visual merchandising. And I was really good at boutique retail management. I did that for a long time. I also did social work for a long time as well. I'm good at those things. I enjoy them, but that's really not what I was really meant to be doing. I meant to be leaning into the esoteric. I meant to be leaning into the occult science that is astrology. And when I decided to lean into that, although it was a new frontier for me, that is when opportunity opened up. So pacification, leaning into your deepest healing, your deepest womb work, and really getting to the heart of the matter, or the pussy in that case, because pussies or vaginas, if we want to be more technical, that is the portal to all life as well. So when you think about your offer, and this is a good time to promote it, right? How can you innovate it? How can you make it cool? How can you surprise and delight your ideal clients to want to work with you? So I've been having a lot of work with somebody right now, and they are just always surprising and delighting me. I'm just so grateful that I'm working with them. And every day they're like, it's just a fun experience. So how can you make that offer a fun experience? Too often we make business transactional and we don't have anything fun about it, you know?
Great. So as I've been leaning more into my coaching services, which Mel has helped me a great deal with, and we'll get into some of her offers at the end of this, but I find myself to be more authentically aligned, which ended up being a very big catalyst for myself. And again, when you lean into things that A, you're already slightly good at, and B, they feel right, things tend to flow in a better way. And again, we're all about alignment, all about manifestation, getting yourself to the next level. So sometimes it may require you to go deep. It may actually require you to look at your shadow self. I do believe business is a spiritual game, as Tony Robbins always mentions. And the reason being is you get to uncover layers of yourself. And as you're doing it, you end up finding different modalities that are going to help you, and maybe even things that you just were not aware. So what I like to do is combining the astrological aspects of that with my life coaching, because it kind of aligns. Where am I going to be struggling right now? Where am I going to be maybe needing to lean into my feminine more? It's all kind of going hand in hand. So yeah, sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
Not at all. No, it's really good. It's a really good segue as well, because we also have Mercury sextiling Saturn. So when we say that, this is a really good time to be communicating your offers as well. Stepping into your zone of genius, communicating what you're offering, and what you're about. How do I know this? Mercury is a planet associated with Hermes in Greek mythology. He's the messenger of the gods. So Mercury, Hermes, also associated with the archetypes of not only the messenger, but also the merchant. Good time for selling as well. So with that, when you're encountering it with Saturn, Saturn is out here saying, hey, let's buckle down. Let's really be honest with our challenges. Let's overcome these obstacles. Maybe you could refresh your copywriting if you have someone else writing for you. Maybe you could add some more energy into your website. Maybe you can get more clear on communicating the value of your offerings. Because you really, with Saturn also, it's also thinking about the longer term vision as well. So this is not necessarily a time for flash sales, although if you feel called to do that, it's fine. But maybe this is a good time to really reevaluate your offering so that you can get it ready for the new moon, which will happen in 2 more weeks. So that's just something to consider. Additionally, we do have Mars trining Saturn, right? What does that mean? Mars, the planet of assertion, boundary setting, taking action, forward movement, is really working out with Saturn as well. They kind of work out well together sometimes. So Mars could be considered like the young buck, in which Saturn, the dad of the zodiac, is taking him under his wing and explaining, hey, this is a good time to really buckle down, kid, and figure out what you're doing. And then Mars or Aries tries to start a lot of projects. Saturn's coming in to be like, we're focused on this one thing. We're doing this one thing. So you don't have to do a bunch of offers. If you have multiple offers, that's fine. But just really be clear on it and stick to your guns. That is a big thing. Do not be afraid to not discount, because I don't believe in doing that. If someone's trying to come in and negotiate your pricing, this is a very great time with Saturn and Mars working together. Like, no, I'm not going to do that. This
Boundaries.
is right? Not negotiating. We're not doing less. If you feel called, sometimes I find this is helpful. If you sign up with me right now, you get 15 extra minutes on a reading or something. So that way I'm not discounting my offer, and I'm adding more value, and it's not that much of my time, right? But again, this is very much, you do have to listen to yourself. And then with all of this activity as well, we are also experiencing Mercury interacting with the North Node in Taurus, the collective North Node. We'll talk about that. And then Mercury is also forming that sextile to Saturn, which is currently in Pisces, and also working with Mars in Cancer. So it can seem like kind of a mess with what I just said. So what does all that mean? Okay, so the collective North Node, the North Node is kind of what you need to lean into. It's the zone of unfamiliarity outside of your comfort zone. But the point of doing that is so that you can master new skills. Whereas the South Node is associated with your comfort zone, the areas of proficiency, maybe old habits that don't really serve you anyway. That's kind of what the South Node is for. So with the collective North Node, we have it going on in Taurus. So that forces the masses, the whole collective across the whole globe, to lean into pleasure, slowing down, practicing embodiment, enjoying the earthly delights, slowing down to smell the roses, if you will. Collectively, as human beings, we've kind of been on a chaotic wheel of karma. And I know, I'm sure you agree, Anita, since 2020, it was really a litmus test on how spiritual everyone is. And we learned 2020, a lot of people are not actually. And they're always in anxiety mode. It was a very stressful time in 2020, and everybody was confused. And a lot of people were yelling at each other, and there's a lot of division. And so I will also add as well, to get into the mood of Aries season, I watched Robert Eager's The Northman the other day, and I watched it again last night because it's a movie about Vikings. And when you're watching this movie about historical people, you realize how hardcore that culture was. And it's like, man, it is hardcore. It is very metal, very into death, very brutal, right? And that's what when I say the collective South Node, it's going to be in Scorpio. So the collective is very used to Iron Age kind of Viking living. The Middle Ages especially was a very hard time for humanity after the fall of Rome. It's very much like, oh my God, like what day is it? There's chaos. There's these vandals from the north kicking our butt. They're like busting into our villages, like they're raping our women and taking the kids. It was a disaster, right? A lot of survival mode in that area of the world and during that time. Additionally, when you talk about Taurus, which is the complete opposite, Taurus is very much Empress energy, sensuality, feeling the five earthly senses, taking your time. Yes, queenly, chilling out, right? I guess you could say before the fall of Rome, the Romans were farting around too much in the Taurus energy, and they were like, they got kind of lazy, they got fat and lazy, and they just weren't taking their enemies that seriously, and it was very easy to take over the empire. So then, as a switch, immediately everybody went super extreme, and it was just like Scorpio energy, death, rebirth, sex, a lot of raping, right? A lot of like stress. Got to make sure I don't have that many earthly possessions. I need to be able to get up and run away really fast. Stressful time. Then like from basically Christ entering the scene, right, around 2000 years ago, it's just more of like, hey, he ushered in Pisces season. Like, hey, maybe we shouldn't kill each other. Maybe we could cut it out with the Aries Iron Age vibes. Maybe we could like love our neighbors unconditionally. Again, humans haven't really been ready for that either. So fast forward, it's 2020, everyone's lost their mind. And again, we're still actually kind of, you could say we're kind of still repeating that Viking age vibe even today. So my prediction is a lot of human beings are kind of getting over it. If you live in the US, a lot of people are like, they quit their jobs. So like, I don't even like this job. I don't even like these people. Like, what is the real point of doing this? I think a lot of people have been forced to really reevaluate. And with the North Node, it has been in Taurus for a little bit. It's more like, maybe I should slow down and smell the roses. Like maybe I could chill out. So again, that is currently what we're experiencing in this full moon in Libra. So all this activity is all happening. It's going to be happening tomorrow. technically at 9:34 p.m. Pacific Standard Time or 12:34 p.m. Eastern Time, right? So this is a time to really reevaluate relationships, reevaluate how you relate to others, releasing all that does not serve you, to include relationships and habits, patterns that keep you in survival mode. We're cutting that out. If you feel the need to promote your offers, either in person or online, how can you pussify them? How can you make them cooler? How can you enhance them? How can you innovate them? And how can you calmly and assertively, maybe decisively, deliberately communicate the value of what you're offering to your ideal clients? Additionally, with the full moon in Libra, are you actually targeting the proper market? So that's another thing to also consider. For many years, I tried personally working with artists and creatives as my target market, and it was a slog. Oh my gosh. So I realized actually by looking at my chart properly, I'm really meant to be working with CEOs. I'm really meant to be working with established business leaders instead of people that are creatives, artists, or people that are in the startup space. They're all kind of messing around, to be honest, and the Scorpio South Node energy of like frenetic and like ungrounded, and they're hustling, right? I'm really just not meant to be working with that type of client. So it's also a good time to reevaluate, am I even speaking to the right people? With Venus being activated with Uranus, am I even talking to the right people? Maybe I could go to a market that at first glance doesn't seem like my ideal clients, but maybe that's where they're at. So today I just had a call with a Christian CEO, or a CEO, I guess, that calls himself Christian. And he was really into astrology, despite the fact that he didn't grow up with that tradition. So with the Venus interacting with Uranus, how can you bring together two groups, or how can you bring maybe yourself that seemingly don't go with the target market? And maybe you might find it could be mutually beneficial for all parties involved.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Additionally, I will wrap up as well. We do have Saturn going into Pisces. This is going to be for a minute, right? So Saturn had been in Capricorn for a while. Now it's in Pisces. Excuse me, Saturn was in Aquarius, apologies. And now it is moving into Pisces. So Saturn, the dad of zodiac, hard ass, very much focused on, hey, kid, what are you doing? Does not get along with dreamy liminal Pisces. They're kind of stressing each other out. Pisces, very much flowy, going with the flow, really into fantasy, rose-colored glasses. Saturn, yes, yes. Saturn's like, hey, deal with your stuff. And Pisces like, whoa, man, you're messing up my vibes. Get off my cloud. So with that, if you have a Pisces midheaven, anybody who's watching this, your midheaven is in the middle of the heavens. It's in the middle of your chart. That's how the public perceives you, also associated with your career and life's work. So maybe people perceive you with a Pisces midheaven, like myself, as like very mysterious. Ooh, what does she do? So mysterious, so fantastical, right? This is your time to actually shine if you have a lot of Piscean activity and Saturn's activating them. How can you show up as an authority in your field or an expert, right? This is really the time to buckle down, especially if you're a creative person. If anybody's listening and they're a creative person, this is a good time to be like, hey, I'm showing up. I know my stuff. I'm going to show up consistently, either online or in person, and I'm not going to overwhelm myself. And I'm showing up as the authority that I always have been. I spent years and years and years accumulating all this experience. Now I'm going to show up with it. Additionally, Mars is going to be in Cancer for a minute as well, just like a few more days. But basically, Mars, the assertive, forward-moving, action-taking masculine planet, is feeling very uncomfortable in super girly, feminine, nurturing, nourishing Cancer. So if Cancer is the divine mother, Aries is the baby of the zodiac, asserting himself. So he's feeling a little uncomfortable. So again, not the most comfortable placement, but it's also a time if you're a person that really does take action a lot with this full moon in Libra, maybe it's time for you to like sit down and calm the F down. And again, rest, reevaluate, chill, lean into the feminine energy, especially with men that might be watching. So, you know, the type of people I work with, they're busy most days. They make tons of decisions. And they're not hard and callous dudes either, but maybe they might feel uncomfortable resting for a minute. This is the time to rest, chill out, ground, eat your favorite foods, reevaluate people that you associate with. Maybe you don't want to associate with people anymore and you unfollow them or disconnect with them on LinkedIn, as lame as that sounds. Maybe you don't have to tell anybody off necessarily. You can still be diplomatic with that Libra energy. But this is also time to tell yourself, like, okay, I'm probably gonna have to have a conversation with that one friend. And unless they stop being so miserable, probably gotta stop talking to them. So again, rest, rejuvenate. It's gonna be Wednesday and Thursday. This activity is gonna be happening. So it's a good time to just rebalance, recalibrate, reevaluate.
Amazing. Also, since you touched on Saturn being in Pisces, for those of my folks that are actually going through their Saturn returns, can you give us a little bit of feedback of what that's going to look like? And also, because you and I have had this talk and like discussion on our personal time about how just because you're going through a Saturn return and it's an intense sign does not always necessarily mean that life is going to absolute shit.
Yeah. So I think Saturn gets a bad rap. I think the kids on the pop spirituality on Instagram call it Sky Daddy for Saturn. I don't want to sexualize Saturn. That's just not my but he is the dad of the zodiac, and he is here. The divine masculine as well is here to help you buckle down through challenges. Your Saturn return, for those who don't know, occurs every 30 years. Sometimes you can feel the activity picking up 2 to 3 years prior to when you turn 30 and a year or two after you turn 30. And actually, your Saturn return does not mature until you're 36. So what it means is Saturn is returning to the same exact place it was the day you were born 30 years prior. So if you're a mature person, generally speaking, you're not out partying, you're not being reckless in your 20s, you're kind of over the like partying phase, you're not ignoring your responsibilities, maybe you're taking an attempt to really take control of your career, you're awakening to your divinity, Saturn return is going to be okay for you. If you are a hot mess, I don't think you'd be listening to this channel if you were, but in the event that you are, welcome. This is
We
the
love
time.
all types.
You're right. This is the time to be like, oh man, I really got to get my life together. Because if you don't, Saturn will kick your butt. You could lose your job. You could become homeless. You could get on crystal meth. There's a ton of possibilities that would really force you to really get it together. For those that are mature like myself, I felt like I've always been mature for my age. There is a possibility by the time you hit your 40s or midlife, you are going to have some interaction with Neptune. So you don't really have a Neptune return because it takes over 100 years or around 80 years to get to the same spot. But it could mean that if you are too straight-laced, you're too uptight in your 20s, by the time you turn 30 as well, that by the time you hit midlife, you might go crazy because you spend so much time white knuckling or being like too uptight. So again, I'm a Libra sun. I'm here. I'm all about the balance as well, right? So it's more of how can I allow Saturn to communicate to me about what I need to be doing to get my life together and get my life's work underway. And how can I have fun and pleasure into that? How can I express myself fully and show my authentic self so that when I turn 45 or 50, I don't lose my mind either because I allow myself to have fun within reason. Saturn is also associated with boundaries, like kind of like Mars, but Saturn is more of a container. So, how do you let loose without ending up at the police precinct by the end of the night? You know what I mean? Like where's
Where are you finding your middle ground?
Right. Saturn's like you can have fun, but like chill, right? Whereas Mars does assert boundaries as well, but Mars is very much like F you. And we don't also, as we're maturing with our Saturn return, we don't want to come off F you all the time because it's not really that mature. Like grow up. You know what I mean?
Communicate.
Yes. Calmly and deliberately. Saturn is a very deliberate planet.
Beautiful. Thank you for our astrological weather report.
You're welcome. You are
So
welcome.
go ahead. Let's just get this out of the way because I'm sure by now people are curious on how they can work with you. So, what are some of the programs or readings you are currently offering? And also, would you be fine if I share this on my YouTube description just to make sure that people can get a hold of you? So, if you want to give us your best contact information, this is the time to do so.
Of course. Anybody who wants to get to know me more, you can follow me on Instagram at Melanie_Marisol. So that will be spelled out below. You can also find me at melaniemarisol.com. And I'm also available at my email address, melanie@melaniemarisol.com. You'll be able to find me. My current offerings include the Divine Assignment reading. So that is understanding, what you're here to be doing. And also it's about legacy building as well. So Divine Assignment and Legacy Building reading, that is 90 minutes. And you do get lifetime access to it. Additionally, you do get a comprehensive document that is also in Word form of what we're discussing. And so that way you can look over it while you listen to the recording again and again, just so you can notice patterns, right? Understanding the archetypes that are most activated in you, that make up your personality and what you're here to accomplish and help lead this new earth. I also provide the astrology informed PR strategy. So that is for people that are a little bit more established in their business. They are very much focused on, getting their message out there. They're in that place where they're ready for it. So of course, working with astrology informed PR, you want to sign more clients, of course, you want to build your email list, you want to get more business. But it's more of what is the aligned voice that is yours? What is the message that you're here to spread? So that is a 90-day container as well. And you can find more about that on the links below. And finally, I do have the one-on-one personal brand excavation. Anita was part of the beta group, the personal brand intensive last year. So that is also about exploring, of course, your divine assignment, the legacy you're meant to leave behind. It also includes a personal brand reading as well. So what are the components that make your most authentic voice? And that is a one-to-one container that is 4 months long. So that is also available below. That is, again, very much for the kind of person who would like to do the astrology informed PR. Between the two, it's utilizing astrology to figure out what are your placements, how do you communicate the best, and maybe some people really do well with podcast interviews, whereas other people really thrive doing very old school PR, like being featured in Forbes, being featured on someone else's guest blog as well. Maybe some people write better than they do speaking, right? So it's always understanding how you best operate, how you best communicate, and how you can do it the most efficiently. So those are 3 different ways to work with me.
And to piggyback off that, working with her has been amazing. But let me just go ahead and put this disclaimer out here, because in what both of us do, there is work that needs to be done. So even the readings, it's unlocking a new part of yourself, but there is definitely a little bit of an aspect of you have to process, you have to go ahead and kind of get to know yourself in a deeper way. And in order to do that, sometimes you have to face things that you might have been putting off.
Yes,
So
exactly.
I want to thank Melanie again for her time. It's been wonderful getting this mother report. And good news for those of you still watching, we are going to be doing this every month, full and new moon readings as they come, so you can get your updates and know what the collective is going to be dealing with, what you may be dealing with and seeing. And yeah, I'm really just excited to see what we have coming up in the rest of this year.
Yes, awesome. So thank you very much for your time. And yes, for anybody that doesn't work with me, I do really prefer to work with people that are here to deep dive into who they really are. If you're into that, that sounds like fun, you can always find me and DM me on Instagram at Melanie_Marisol.
Thank you.
No problem.